Alright, so we're going to look at how to find the UV maps for meshes in Veilguard. So I already have Frosty open, and I have this part of the N7 armor open. So I basically just found it. I know where it is in the folders, but if you didn't know, you can use the texture matrix that we have linked in the Discord to figure out whatever the name of the armor is in Frosty. So basically what I'm going to do is let's pretend these are closed. I'm going to find the mesh that I want and double click it. And then up here I'm going to click export. If we're just looking at UV maps, then these settings don't matter a whole lot. But if you're worried about it, you can just copy what I have on here for the skeleton scale and all of that. So I'm going to click export and I'm going to save it. And then your Frosty will probably open with this log tab. So if I go over to where it says references, you can see it has all of these textures. So I'm going to just look at one texture right now to start with, which is this 01 seal art. So I double click it and then it opens up here, and I'm going to click export, and then I am just going to save that. So then I am going to open up Blender, and I'm going to click on File, Import FBX. I'm going to go to where I saved that. And then the default import settings are fine. So click import, and there we have the armor. We'll click on this to expand, and you can see there's three what we call materials. So this is 01C, 01, and 01B. If you'll notice, those are named basically the same as all the textures down here. So we're going to start with that 01. So I am going to click on it here. And then in Blender, there is this tab UV editing. So I'm going to click that. And you can see on the left, we get this weird looking grid here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click UV up here, and then export UV layout. The N7 armor is kind of weird. The actual textures are 4K, but the UV map wants to export as 1K. So I'm just going to go and change these to 4096. And I like to have my fill opacity as 1, but it doesn't really matter. When you save it, make sure there's no colon in your file name. That will give you an error. So you should get that. I'll just need that map so I can find it. So I'll click export, and then you can open your graphics editor of choice. I have Krita open. I tried using GIMP and I don't know any of the hotkeys, and so I can't give you anything useful there. But I'm going to go to File and then Open, and then I opened my N7 texture, and then I am going to open that map that we just exported. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control A to select all, Control C to copy, and then Control V right here. And so you can see that all of those little grids end up going over different parts of the texture. And that is basically like where you can color stuff in. So this makes it a lot easier. So if I control and then click on my layer, it's only going to highlight the stuff that was actually selected. Let me go with like bright yellow. So Makes it easier to color in different areas, and also if you use like your bucket fill tool, you can fill in individual pieces. So that definitely makes it a lot easier. The reason that there are some of these parts of the texture that aren't covered with the grid is because sometimes the texture, so if I click on the texture here, I go to textures and then the 01, you can see that there are actually a bunch of meshes that reference it. So there's going to be this body coat model, which is the one that I exported, and then also this coat cloth, and then also this other model right here. So if it looks like, whoops, if it looks like not every piece is getting filled in, probably just going to want to check to make sure that you have all of the meshes that are associated with that texture. So this can be really helpful, but what if you want to recolor the gloves and you can't find the gloves or a pauldron or something? Blender makes that really easy too. So I'm going to go back here and then I'm going to click on shading. And then I'm going to make sure that I have that 01 selected. I'm actually going to hide the other two. And then I'm going to click down here on the bottom where it says new. And it's going to create this thing. So I'm using my middle mouse button to move around in this little window. And I'm going to click off, right click, and then add texture, image texture. And then they'll let me just click here. And then I'm going to hook up the color to base color, and then alpha to alpha. And then click open. And don't want to use the map, I want to use the actual texture here, so I'll open that. And now I can see the texture, which is not super useful in and of itself, but if we go to this tab that is texture paint, and I zoom out on this side, and then I zoom in here, you can see it kind of like overlays the UV map on here. And so if you're like, I want to just recolor this part of the back here and nothing else, what you can do is, see, I'm going to go to this color picker on the right side. I'm going to make the colors bright, and I'm going to pick like bright pink. It's like, okay, where is this? So I'm just going to paint straight on top of it. And you can see that Blender updates the texture over here as you like draw on stuff over here. So now you can see, okay, this area right here is the area that I'm going to want to recolor. So I can go to my image editor and say, call that, oh, I have caps on, okay. I'll call it back leather. And then I'm going to deselect everything. And I'm going to hide the UV map, and I'm going to hide that. So if I wanted to go and paint on this, kind of annoying if I control click the UV map layer. Also kind of annoying, it's easy to like mess up. So if I did like a fill or something, and then I wanted to go in and add some like details, you can mess up and go outside the lines. But if I just control click my back layer, then I can't go outside the lines, which is super nice. You can see the UV map doesn't have like all of the details on it. So like, for example, if you wanted to change like the pattern of the leather, or if you wanted to change the color of the stitches, you do have to hand paint those, unfortunately. I make some personal UV maps that I also upload onto Nexus, but I'll show you. This is one that I did for Arlethan's fall armor. So This is the actual UV map, and you can see all of my different layers here. So I did go in and hand paint all of the stitches so that whenever I wanted to do a recolor, I could just click on stitches, thin stitches, more stitches, more stitches. Just because I knew I'd be coming back to this armor and I wanted to save myself the pain, and then it was like, I could probably save someone else the pain too. So yeah, UV maps really useful for getting those big details. Hope you find that useful.